Okay, so let's talk about paternalism. So remember I said last time that Mill, on purely utilitarian grounds, thought that paternalism could not be justified. We know what we want better than the state does, so the state shouldn't restrict our behavior. It's only going to create more unhappiness by doing so. And I said last time, we can think of good reasons to be skeptical of that. And Conley presents more reasons, right? Conley talks about all these biases that we've uncovered with recent psychological research, right? We're more optimistic than we should be. We always think things are going to turn out well for us, right? The smoker, well, he thinks he's going to be the one rare smoker who lives to 80, right? The person who drinks all the sugary soda, she might well know that people who drink a lot of sugar have a higher chance of getting diabetes. She thinks she might be the lucky person who doesn't get it, right? So Conley gives us these reasons, and she says, well, Mill's probably wrong about this, right? I don't think that's so surprising. We saw it in the last lecture. What I want to ask, not whether Conley gives us good reasons to doubt Mill's utilitarian case against paternalism. I think she does, and I think they're interesting reasons to look at. But what I'm more interested in is there a good argument against the Kantian case against paternalism? Remember, I said Kant would say, or a Kantian could say, even if paternalism works, even if it makes people happier than they would have been if allowed to make their own choices, that it uses people as a mere means, uses them as a mere means to their own happiness. Well, that might be, in a sense, a good thing, using someone as a mere means to their own happiness. Kant would say it's still wrong. You can't use people as a mere means, not even as a mere means to a good end. Well, is there a response to that Kantian argument, though? Let's look more closely at that. So I think we can distinguish between two different sorts of paternalism. Paternalism about ends and paternalism about means to ends. And let me say a little bit about what I mean by this. Paternalism about ends would say that even if we want something out of life, even if we have some goal, we don't know what our own goals are. I might want to, be a philosopher. I might want to be an academic. And the paternalist about ends would say, no, you're just wrong about that. You should study engineering. You'll earn more money. And I say, well, I don't care about money. The paternalist about ends says, you ought to care about money. Or, I say want to be a member of a certain religion. The paternalist about ends says, no, you don't want to be a member of that religion. Mine's better. So paternalism about ends speaks about the final ends, the final things we want out of life, what we think is good for us, what we think is a good life for us. And I think paternalism about ends is almost certainly going to be ruled out by any Kantian theory. Paternalism, if I say, well, I want to be an actor, even though my career prospects might not be great, even though there might be a lot of struggle and unhappiness, and you say, no, you don't really want to be an actor, why would you want to struggle that much? That's an unacceptable kind of paternalism. We ought to allow people to choose their careers, their religion, who they marry, even if we might not share their judgment about whether that's really a good thing. I might, someone who wants to be famous, I might not see any attraction in that, but if that's what they want out of life, well, who am I to say? So paternalism about ends is paternalism about what we fundamentally want out of life. And I think that would be a bad form of paternalism. And I think any Kantian theory would definitely rule that out. But there's another thing we might mean by paternalism. We might mean paternalism about means to ends. We have certain things we want to get out of life. Well, what's the best way to get them? I might want to be well off. I might want to be financially secure. But what's the best way to get it, right? If I think it's lottery tickets, then I'm just wrong. If I think it's prudent investment, then that's a better answer. And what Conley wants to argue for is paternalism about means to ends. Conley thinks that there are some things that we all want out of life. Every sane person wants these. Why do we want them? Because whatever we do, they're good for us. Two big examples: financial security and health. Now, look, by financial security, I don't necessarily mean being rich, but I mean not having to worry about money, not having to worry that you might not have enough to survive, right? Health should be pretty self-explanatory. And Conley would say, well, look, we often make bad choices about how to get to these ends. We all think we should save more money, and we just don't do it, right? Nobody saves enough money for retirement, or almost nobody does. We all want to be healthy. Well, a lot of us aren't, right? And Conley would say, well, look, on purely Kantian grounds, why should we respect people's reasoning when they're wrong about how to get what they want? Sure, if someone chooses, they really choose that they want something out of life and we don't agree with that choice, Kantianism says we should respect them. If I want to sit around all day reading old books and philosophy, you may think that's weird, you might not follow that choice, but you ought to respect it. On the other hand, what about when I make a bad choice about how to get what I want? If I really want to be healthy, but I'm too weak-willed not to drink my 40-ounce Big Gulp, well, is it really so wrong to stop me from doing it to help me to get what I want? You're not interfering with my fundamental choice about what I want out of life. You're just interfering with the fact that I reason badly about it, right? A metaphor might help here, right? We should not, even Conley would admit, tell people where they want to go in life, what their goals should be. On the other hand, if we know what their goals are, but they're taking a bad road to it, well, why not nudge them off that road, right? If someone wants financial security or wants health, and they really want it, but they're going down a road that's going to lead them to be incredibly poor or really unhealthy, well, why not push them off of that road? That's Conley's argument, and she thinks even a Kantian wouldn't have a great answer to it. So here's Conley's argument, and I would say it's not an argument for paternalism in all cases, but it is an argument for some paternalism. There are some ends that every person wants, such as health and financial stability. There is good evidence that left to our own, we make decisions that keep us from getting those ends. We want those things. All that psychological research she cites shows or suggests we might not always be so great at getting them. It would be good to remove obstacles to people getting ends, such as health and financial stability. Paternalistic laws would remove those obstacles by keeping people from making bad choices and reaching those ends. So we should have paternalistic laws when doing so would help people achieve ends like financial stability and health. So Conley would say, in some cases at least, it will it'll be best for us if we are pushed to make the right choices. It will help us get more of what we all want. Now, I think this is an interesting argument for paternalism. I'm not so sure that the Kantian has a great answer to it, right? Remember, Kantianism is all about respecting choices, but not every choice is the same, right? I do think choices about what we fundamentally want out of life should be respected. But why respect choices about getting what we want that are bad? If I'm making a mistake in getting what I've chosen, why respect that mistake? I'm not so sure Kantianism says that we have to. I do think there is something worrying about allowing the state to make laws like this, though. You might think, well, what's the fundamental attitude that the state has toward us, or that we think the state should have towards citizens? Well, if it's one where the state treats citizens almost like children, you might say, well, even if the individual paternalistic laws don't fail to show respect, taking this attitude towards citizens where they're children, well, maybe that fails to show respect. That sort of attitude does use people as mere means. I'm not sure. I think if you're a Kantian, that's the kind of angle you want to push. For my own part, I would, this is just me speaking personally, I think maybe, again, we should be highly suspicious of paternalistic laws, but maybe we should take them on a case-by-case basis. You know, if paternalistically we are keeping people who might want to not wear a seatbelt from wearing a seatbelt, what's that really costing them? How much is it helping them? In other cases, though, maybe we're interfering in their life in a more real way. If we are keeping them from eating and drinking what they want, well, that might be more real interference. That might show an attitude on the part of the state or on the part of people making these laws that really does fail to respect people. All of which is to say, I think Conley gives us reasons to be suspicious of a knee-jerk reaction against paternalism. We ought to question that reaction. But I am not convinced that she, say, gives us a good reason to accept laws about, say, how big a big gulp we can have. Maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. You can make your own decision. I, myself, am not entirely convinced.